You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode is Halloween, the 2018 American horror slasher film directed by David Gordon Green and released October 19th, 2018.
Ooh.
That's right. Happy Halloween! It is. We seem to think that, this is very fitting because if you're listening to this right as it is released, it is October 31st, Halloween Day, unless you're one of those people who is really on top of things and downloads it and listens as soon as we drop it, then it might still be Friday the 30th for you.
It could be.
You don't get any extra brownie points for that. Oh, yeah, you do. Maybe. Pat on the back.
We do. We appreciate you being on top of it and listening to the episode right away, as soon as it drops.
But for all intents and purposes, it's Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Yes, something definitely to celebrate. And you didn't think that we at Run for Your Lives would get to this wonderful occasion without having a special Halloween episode for you. So, Pake, you want to tell folks why we picked the film that we're covering today?
Yeah, well, aside from just the very on the nose, because we wanted to release Halloween on Halloween, because that was a fun thing to say. But then also with this movie, because I remember seeing it in theaters when it came out 2 years ago, is the whole thing that kicks this whole movie off are these podcasters. And so I was like, it's just so fitting. We have to do this as two podcasters who just love some of the dark and twisty stuff.
Absolutely.
Obviously, picking a movie that kicks off with these two podcasters who are really obsessed with all the dark and twisty past of Michael Myers getting involved and kind of causing all of this stuff to go off in a way. Why would we not cover this movie? It just seems perfect. I love it.
Of course, of course. I'm so excited to dive into this film. I actually saw the original when I was 12 or 13. It had been out for a couple of years. I really enjoyed it. The score in particular really affected me because I think it's so intense and it builds into the movie. And there's just different points in the movie where you'll hear this music. It was just so effective. Yeah. All of it. So I'm really excited that we decided to do the first of our holiday features.
Yeah. We've got some different holiday movies coming down the line for the rest of this year. So those will be fun to get to when we do.
Oh, definitely. So why don't we dive in a little bit to give you a little behind the scenes information. Halloween 2018, which is how we differentiate between Halloween 1978. Then there was also the remake that came out in the 2000s, and now we have the 2018 direct sequel to the original. It is actually the 11th movie in the Halloween film series, and as I said, it's a direct sequel to the 1978 film. This timeline continues as if none of those other films existed at all. Which is, it's definitely a unique way of looking at it, I guess. It's something different than what we've seen. I mean, you get movies in a franchise. Usually they're connected in some way. And this one skips everything except the first one. So I was really excited to dive back in. Director David Gordon Green is actually signed on to direct the two upcoming sequels, which to me is really exciting because it's going to keep the connective thread between the three films. And that can be really exciting, especially to look at it and know that it should keep up those continual pieces. I'm really excited to see what he brings to the table. Yeah. He also was a writer as well. But we'll get to that a little bit later because I do have some production notes and some kind of cool things to bring up.
Nice.
So this film was dedicated to Mustafa Akkad, who was the executive producer on 8 of the films in the series. He passed away in 2005. Actually, it was a bombing in, I believe it was Jordan bombing.
Oh, wow.
He and his daughter died, and so they dedicated this film to him. The 2007 remake was also dedicated to him. The budget for this film was between 10 and 15 million, depending on which website you looked at. The box office gross was 255.5 million. It's the highest grossing film in the franchise and was as of its opening weekend, which is pretty fantastic.
That is cool, yeah.
And it is 106 minutes long.
Yeah.
So, Peg, why don't you give us a synopsis of Halloween?
All right. Just kind of the quick synopsis. I like the quick ones that don't give you too much. Yeah. Laurie Strode confronts her longtime foe, Michael Myers, the masked figure who has haunted her since she narrowly escaped his killing spree on Halloween night 4 decades ago.
Wow.
Yep.
It's amazing to me to think that it's been 4 decades since this film came out. And now, at this point, it's been 42 years since the original film came out.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Yeah, it is cool, though, that they timed that out. I mean, not like they were planning back in 78 to be like, in exactly 40 years, we'll drop another one that ties directly into this. but yeah, that it worked out that way, that they could release it 2018, exactly 40 years from that time, and have it pick up where they left off is really cool.
Yeah, I definitely am digging that they were able to do that and make it tie in that way.
Yeah.
40 years is a long time, but Jamie Lee Curtis was game. She came back, and so it's great to see her tackle this role that she took on early on in her career when she was a relative unknown actress.
Yeah.
I was pretty excited to rewatch this. It makes me want to actually go back and rewatch the original just now so that...
Yeah, me too. It's been a long time, so yeah.
I definitely want that connection for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I want to dive back in. And what better month to do it? This is October. It's a perfect time to be revisiting old favorites.
Yeah. So I guess at this point, we might as well just jump into the movie before we get into specifics, details, characters, all those things we like to talk about. Do you have just kind of some overall general initial thoughts on the film as a whole?
You know, we talked about this earlier before we started podcasting today. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes when you look at a movie through a different lens than you did when you first saw it, it can bring to light so many things that you didn't notice before. And it also can connect you to a movie because of those things that you notice. And one thing that I have learned while podcasting in this brief podcasting experience is that sometimes my initial reaction to a film is not my end result reaction, I guess. Because the second time or third time that I watch it, especially when looking at it through a podcasting lens, I end up appreciating so many more things about the movie than I do originally. And I think it's because I'm looking at it a little more critically and really looking at those little details that I may not have noticed the first time around.
Yeah. My kind of initial thought on it, just overall, I think, honestly, and I don't know, I haven't gone too deep into the internet webs to find out kind of what people think generally, but at least in my opinion, like, I think it's a great movie. I mean, it's Halloween, so you know exactly what you're getting into. Like, it's...
Yes, definitely.
It's a classic slasher horror film.
Yes.
And so if that's what you're into, then it pulls that off perfectly. Like, it does exactly what it's set out to do. So it holds up really well in that regard. And so going into it, this is Halloween, not meant to be a Nightmare Before Christmas reference, but then you know what you're going to get, and you go, you should enjoy it for that. And I really did. Yeah,
me too. It's funny. One of my other friends, when I told them we were going to podcast about Halloween, they asked me, well, how does that tie into Run for Your Lives? It's not a monster movie, a creature feature, or a disaster flick. Mm-hmm. And then I just reminded them that we cover all movies that make you run for your lives. And if Michael Myers doesn't make you run for your life, who does?
Yeah, right. I mean, they call him a monster quite a few times throughout,
They
throughout
really
this
do.
movie.
I think it ties in perfectly, and it's just fun to be able to look at these movies and just dig in.
Oh yeah, and we got to twist our rules a little bit and our parameters a little bit,
Always,
especially when we're trying to do Halloween holiday specials.
absolutely. And you know what, Pake? We can.
Yeah, we make the rules around here.
We make the rules around here. So
cool. Well, I say let's go
right.
ahead and jump into the movie then. And I know we like to talk about characters a lot first, so there's a lot of really fun characters to jump into. And though you would think I would want to start with Michael Myers being the face and the mask and the things you see, I think I want to jump into the character who's more important to this story than he is. And that is Jamie Lee Curtis's incredible Scream Queen character. Yeah, Laurie Strode.
She is an original Scream Queen. Yeah. She really is. I feel like they started coining the phrase because of her.
Yeah.
You can see if you look at how she was in the first film, and then you see the Laurie Strode that we see in Halloween 2018.
Yeah.
She's changed so much from this student who, she was kind of brainy and just really focused, and she was a good babysitter, and she, there were things that she did.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's kind of this self-proclaimed basket case who lost custody of her daughter when her daughter was 12, didn't get her back. As a result, has this rocky relationship with Karen, her daughter, and Allison, her granddaughter, and lives in this what seems like a perpetual state of fear of Michael Myers, despite the fact that he is locked up. And I get the impression she feels like no cage is going to be big enough.
Yeah. He's been in that prison or that asylum, institution, whatever you want to call it. He's been there for 40 years, and still every day she is just a nervous ticking time bomb waiting to go off. But she's used that time very well also to where her home and everything is, she is the most prepped person I have ever seen or come across, where she's got everything like booby trapped and locked and ready to go, and she has so many locks on every door in her house, and she's prepared for that inevitable return of Michael Myers. She knows it's coming and she's ready.
I feel like it's her special brand of red carpet welcome for him. It definitely is. I feel for her though, because I feel, even though I know her daughter had a very crazy childhood, I feel for her because I don't think her daughter ever cut her any slack, really, or tried to understand.
Yeah.
Or maybe, maybe we didn't see that her daughter tried, and, she just couldn't get past that outer shell that was there. And I remember at one point, Laurie basically said if Karen hates her because of the way she raised her, she can live with it because she knows Karen is prepared for, quote, the horrors of this world.
Yeah.
But I could totally feel that from her, that she did the very best she could after being completely traumatized. I mean, what she went through as a teenager, her friends were killed, and she barely escaped. Who knows how you'd react if that were the case in the real world?
And that's her. Yeah, that trauma is very deep. So again, even though it's that flip side, I say, she's so prepared and she's so focused on that, but she is equally as deeply traumatized. And there's just everything. She, it kind of comes up that she's had these drinking problems, and that she's just kind of, she calls herself a basket case, and she knows it, like that she's very frazzled, and there's a lot of things that it has completely ruined all social and familial aspects of her life. Like, this is just something that she'll never be able to let go and move on from. It has haunted her. And so it has, she wanted to raise her daughter to be able to fight back against those kind of things. And it did. It caused CPS to come in and take her child away from her, and she loses custody of her 12-year-old daughter. And luckily her daughter, as an adult, has kept her around at an arm's length, but at least she's part of the family. She has a relationship with her granddaughter. She has these things, but it's hard for her.
I loved watching Allison ask her mother, "Did you invite my grandmother to my induction into the National Honor Society?" And Karen says that she did and that she wasn't going to come. And then Allison admits, not to her mother, that she knows that she didn't do it because she instead did it herself. Yeah. And I loved the scene that they had when they were at the fence, Allison and Lori, and we're talking about different things because I could see and hear the empathy that Allison has for her grandmother. And even though she wanted her to say goodbye to Michael and let go of everything, I think a piece of her understands that what her grandmother went through was just such a horrifying experience. And so I feel like she does get the empathy from her.
Yeah.
Just not necessarily from Karen and her husband, Ray.
Yeah.
And there's a later scene where they're at the restaurant and Lori breaks down and then walks out and Allison goes to comfort her. And you could feel more empathy there. So I think they have more of a relationship than maybe even Karen knows that they have. And I really appreciated that. I liked seeing that connection between the two of them.
Definitely. They're a lot more similar than I think they even realize they are, which this just goes, I'm jumping way ahead here, but if I want to go into speculation theories and stuff like that, we know there's 2 more movies coming up in this series. Yes. I definitely 100% see Allison playing a much bigger role in those movies, knowing what she's been through now and the connection she has to her grandmother.
Well, seeing her reaction to her boyfriend being kissed by another girl and she was having none of that and she was just on it, I think she's got the potential to be a real badass.
Definitely.
I want to see this. I am looking forward to the next one. Although we'll talk about the sequels a bit later, but the next one is not due to be out until 2021, October 2021. So we're going to be waiting a year.
Yeah, we got some time.
Yeah. But when we do talk about that, there's some nuggets that I'll bring up that I think will get people excited for the next one.
Yeah, but I guess back to Lori, because I'm definitely not done with her. We took a little Allison tangent, but yeah, Lori, I was trying to figure out kind of what her game plan was throughout this film. I mean, you see, she goes to the prison and she watches the bus pull out that Michael's on, and she's drinking and she's having this complete emotional breakdown. Not that she's expecting it to crash or something to go wrong, but it's just almost like she's giving herself this little bit of hope that maybe it's over. He's going somewhere far, far away. And it might all be over, but she's still going through all of this stuff. But then she sees on the news that the bus had crashed, and she's not even remotely shocked at all. She just starts prep. No. She just starts grabbing what she needs, and it's almost like she's completely unsurprised by this, unfazed. Of course he would do that. She knew. Yeah,
she's ready. She's armed herself for battle. She was ready. She had the guns ready to go, and she was going to take him down however she could.
And I think she was prepped for pretty much absolutely anything he could possibly do, because I'm looking around her house, and one thing I even noticed, she had a welding mask and an N95 mask sitting next to each other on her kitchen wall. I was like, I don't know what she's planning to deal with here, but she's ready for it, whatever it is.
She is, and that gun supply that she had in the basement, and we'll get to the basement a little bit later too. There are some things to bring up from that were pretty incredible.
Oh yeah, definitely.
She just had that house decked out in a way that, I mean, it was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I feel like it was Fort Knox.
Yeah, with
in some ways.
Floodlights on the outside that she could trigger to where nobody can sneak up anywhere, and there's no shadows to hide in. She's got these mall style roll down locking grates on all of the doors that she can once he's in the house, then she can check a room and then lock it down so he can't hide in that room anymore. And then she has thought everything out.
She has. She's been preparing for this. I mean, she's been preparing for this for years. 40 years to be exact. Yeah. She's been waiting. Everything she's done in life has been to get ready for this moment.
Yeah.
And she was ready to go. It's pretty incredible if you think about it, about everything that she's done. And another point that she made later on too was that she might have been wrong to raise her daughter that way, but at least she can protect her. And you think about that, I think that's a mother's greatest goal, or a mother always focuses on how to keep their daughter safe.
Yeah.
That's what she was looking at. She wasn't even looking at herself. She was looking at, how can my family be safe? How can I keep them safe? And I think that's true to life. I mean, you want your family to be safe.
Yep. So I guess, well, we might as well, if we're talking about Laurie and we get to her preparation, we might as well jump to the end of the movie. We can talk about that basement scene now. We might as well. Or at least I'll say just her battle, her face-off with Michael Myers here. And the whole thing is, again, as you're watching, you're trying to figure out what her plan exactly is, and you're watching it unfold. Because I remember she shoots through the floor and she hears him stop moving, and she's like, I'm going to go check. And she goes back upstairs. And at first, because I haven't seen this since it came out in the theater. So, some of the stuff I didn't remember and I was a little fuzzy on. So I was just like, I know she's going to be fine. Like, I know what happens at the end. I remember that. But I was like, this is Laurie freaking Strode. Like, she is way smart. That is a rookie mistake. She's way past going out there to check and see if he's dead. I was like, what are you doing? And then, of course, it kind of comes up like, well, yeah, that's the whole plan. It's like this reverse psychology game she's playing with Michael, where she's trying to lure him into thinking he has the upper hand. And so her whole, while looking afraid and going through the house and looking for him, it's all part of her ploy to get him to play into that. And
absolutely,
she employs quite a few little tricks that he himself had used back in the original movie.
Yes.
She's checking the closets and stuff because that's what she did.
She's the only one that can, really.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to closets, but that's something I'm going to share a little bit later.
Yeah.
I've got a few rules for everyone.
Oh, nice.
Going forward.
Yeah, so she's checking the closets, and she's, she kind of knows his mindset based on the things that she did to escape in the first movie. And so she's doing that kind of stuff. I think the biggest one that I really love is she does get stabbed, and he pushes her over the balcony onto the floor, onto the ground below. And he's looking at her body laying there. And then when Allison walks into the house, Michael hears her, turns away. And when he looks back, she's gone, just like the iconic moment in the first movie, except it was him.
Absolutely. So many tiebacks to the original film in this. They were just cute little nuggets and Easter eggs, I guess, that you got to see. And
even her,
it makes you nostalgic.
Even her standing outside the school when Allison sees her is a direct nod to the first movie.
Absolutely. It's so connected. Like, they did not, if you didn't realize they were connected, they wanted there to be no reason at all that you wouldn't see that these two movies were connected with all of these throwback scenes in the movie. It was like they were hammering you over the head with all of these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And let's see, I think one last one kind of is right there when she gets him at the end.
Oh, that was precious.
Knocks him into the basement, and where she's just hiding in the shadows right behind him like he would, and just knew at the right time to emerge. I think it was brilliant in that way. I think it was really awesome. And as you see, that's her plan. They have a lever that she pulls that puts these like spikes over the basement. She had planned everything. That was the whole plan, was to get him in that basement, thinking he had the upper hand. And then she had all these little like gas outlets and stuff, like
blowtorches.
Set up.
It looked like
blowtorches,
with the gas.
But it was like all set up with the natural gas throughout the house.
Yeah.
She had the whole house like wired to blow, or at least to set itself on fire. Once she had him trapped in there, she had been, like I have said a few times, like she's had 40 years to plan this night, and it played out exactly how she wanted it to. It's a very risky plan, but it worked out.
It worked out for her. It really did. Or did it?
Yeah. It did for now. We'll say that. Yeah.
There's some heavy breathing at the end.
It got them to survive. Yeah. It got them to survive this Halloween.
Yeah. There was always this, I felt like, and Laurie even said this, there was always some part of her that just believed that Michael has waited for her and she's been waiting for him. Like, it was just something that, it was two ships that were bound to meet in the middle, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't really a surprise too much that, I mean, obviously this is Halloween and it is about Laurie Strode versus Michael Myers. They're going to meet in the end.
Yeah.
I was not disappointed at all with the way that things went down, because she proved, once again, like we said, she is a scream queen and she gets it done.
Yeah.
So I definitely agreed with that.
Cool. Do you have anything else to say about her?
No, I think let's see. No, that covers pretty much everything I had on Laurie.
Cool. Then I guess we'll go ahead and jump into the other main character, I guess, that people think of when they think of the Halloween movies. Her counterpart, Mr. Michael Myers himself. You know, we pick up on this movie 40 years later from the original. He's in this institution and he's set to be transferred to a much worse place, is kind of what they refer to, like this pit of hell place.
Pit of hell, yeah.
Is just awful. And so it just, in the timing, so these two podcasters who have been following this whole story show up knowing he's set to be transferred like the next day. And so they want to go in and get some interviews, because that other place that he's being transferred to is not going to let them anywhere near anything. So this is their time. They go in, they want to interview as many people as they can, including Michael himself, if they're just so lucky. Of course, that's not going to be the case with him.
Never.
Yeah. They give him a shot anyway. So they walk out to this kind of paved over courtyard in a way, this tiled courtyard, more just a court. There's no yard, but it's a little eerie because you just have these patients out there and they're all just chained to a block.
Yes.
With this little yellow square around them to where that's the extent of their reach. And they just get to like walk little circles around this block, and that's their yard time. That's kind of all they get to do. But Michael just stands there.
Yeah.
He hasn't spoken in 40 years. He doesn't really move, doesn't do much of anything.
But he could speak. He just chooses not to.
Yeah.
According to his doctor, that he could. But the state has lost interest in him. Like, he's not a high-profile case anymore.
Yeah. And then Aaron, as one of the podcasters, has somehow managed to get his mask in his possession. And he pulls it out of his bag, and there is definitely a reaction he gets from Michael. It's subtle.
Yes.
But he acknowledges it.
Yeah. He doesn't look. He does not turn around. Does not look at it. And the other patients and the guard dog are freaking out the whole time. It definitely awakens something in him.
Oh, 100%.
There's a connection there.
Yeah, and that's why I say they triggered the events of this movie, because they gave him that power to get out of to get through the bus wreck and set everything in motion. I really think it is because of Aaron bringing that mask close to him and giving him this renewed vigor.
I agree.
It was a bad move.
Bad idea. do not reconnect serial killers.
Yeah.
Masked slashers with their mask. Not in Friday the 13th. Not in this movie either. You just don't do it. It's something you don't do.
Yeah, so my main notes for Michael Myers are really more of his kill list and his path of destruction. So I've just kind of been running through that. So we see, he's on the bus. The prison bus has wrecked. He has escaped. We don't really know exactly what happened. We don't know the details.
Oh, we do, actually.
Sartain says, Michael had overtaken the guard stuff, but he was chained up in the back. So
I don't know how that happened.
What was point A to point B, other than Sartain maybe having a hand in it himself somehow?
Well, as we see later on.
Because he's a little fishy. He insisted he was on that bus, so there's a good chance there's something there.
He is no Dr. Loomis.
No.
Let me just say, Donald Pleasance, may you rest in peace. Sartain is not a Dr. Loomis at all in any way.
Definitely not. So the way we see this prison wreck is we get this truck, father and son, coming across the wreck in the road, and the prisoners walking around freely. Just poor Lumpy. is the name of this kid. I was like, one, just for having that name. But
no.
no. According to the wiki, I looked into it. His real name was Kevin. They never really mentioned that in the movie, but apparently somehow that's fact. But his dad just called him Lumpy, which I was just like, why would you do that? Poor kid just wanted to dance.
I know.
You're gonna take him out on this hunting trip.
Let him be. Let him be a dancer.
He just wanted to dance, and now he's shooting doctors, running for his life and getting murdered in a truck.
Exactly.
Which I had to, man, it was even worse for him. But after seeing that, I had to kind of look into it because I was like, is this? Because it was really brutal and kind of hard to watch. Because we really watched Michael Myers sit up in that back seat and just wring the life out of this kid, break his neck, and it was all seen. And it was kind of hard to watch because this kid was young, and I'm like, was this the first time that Michael Myers has killed a child? And so I looked into it, I went through the wiki, looked through all this stuff. And so I'm not super versed on a lot of the movie series. I've seen the original and I think maybe the second one, but once the timelines get all weird and they start going down all these paths, I've not paid that much attention. But I looked through all of this stuff. Kevin is the youngest victim in all of the movies.
That's what I thought.
There is a comic book that was part of the H2O timeline.
Oh.
That had him killing a 6-year-old.
Oh, yikes.
I'm not going to count that here necessarily because it's not part of the films. It was in a comic. Mm-hmm. But so as far as the on-screen Michael Myers murders, poor Lumpy Kevin is the youngest victim of Michael Myers.
Yeah, that was pretty difficult to watch. Mm-hmm. It was just sad.
Yeah.
To see that happen.
And then from there, he gets the truck that they were in and drives that off. And somehow maybe he has this connection to the mask or something, but he has managed to track down the podcasters, Aaron and Dana, to Judith, his sister's grave.
That's maybe where he found them. Is he maybe went to the grave?
Yeah, maybe he was going there on his own. Yeah, but he runs into them there. I mean, they don't see him. He's just watching from a distance in his white clothes there. But
as he often does.
Yeah. But yeah, from there he follows them to the gas station. He knows that they have the mask because obviously Aaron showed it to him at the prison, and follows him to the gas station. And then when Dana asks for the restroom, you can actually see Michael Myers killing the guy in the auto shop through the window. Yeah. And I was like, that's kind of, it's a quick thing that if you're not looking for it, you might miss it, but he's back there. Dana goes to the bathroom, and then Aaron, a little bit later, notices the cashier and the guy in the auto shop are dead. He goes in to rescue Dana, and then, of course, Michael kills both of them and retrieves his mask and continues on his warpath. Some have questioned, even myself questioned, whether Aaron actually died.
I wondered about that, because at first it looked like he didn't.
Yeah.
And then it looked like the last breath came out. So I'm guessing he did die.
So I had, that's another little wormhole or rabbit hole that I went down that according to the official sources with the movie, he did die. So yeah. I'll go with that. Okay. I'll believe you guys, I guess.
They would know, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I noticed at least in the beginning, Michael is very methodical in his killings. I mean, you know, it's always to reach the next goal. He has to kill the bus guard so he can wreck the bus and escape the bus. He has to kill Kevin and his dad so he has the truck. Then he has to kill the people at the gas station, podcasters included, because he needs his mask back.
Yep.
Then he kills the lady in her house with the hammer so that he can trade the hammer for a knife.
Yes.
And then, even the next lady he kills was on the phone with somebody who had alarmed her to the fact that Michael Myers was loose. So, I mean, maybe she's going to get the word out and things are going to be hard for him. Got to take her out, too. It's all very, methodical.
She might have been the town gossip.
Yeah. Until she gets to Julian's house where Vicky and Dave are at. That one, unless he just somehow knows about the connection between them and Allison, but that's a little bit of a stretch. So my theory held up until that point, but at least before that, he was pretty methodical.
Yeah. I wondered why he went in there. That,
Yeah.
I didn't understand it. It was one of those things that I just wasn't sure about.
Yeah.
But with Michael Myers, I mean, who really knows?
Yeah.
It's such a twisted, he has such a twisted mind.
Yeah, definitely.
We just really don't know. That makes me think, too, one of the things that I noticed, wanted to point out, is Aaron had access, rest in peace, Aaron, to Loomis's tapes.
Yeah.
Where he recommended that Michael be terminated.
Mm-hmm.
And he felt that death was the only solution to Michael's evil. Because he felt he was pure evil. He wanted to be there. He wanted to listen and make sure his heart stopped and had no vitals, and then having the body cremated. And more throughout that tape or the clip that they were listening to, Loomis refers to Michael as it. It needs to die. So he didn't even look at Michael as anything human. He was looking at it more of this entity, this evil entity that needed to be eradicated.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's, and as you see, because then it's less methodical, and then it just becomes, this more monstrous thing where he, Julian runs downstairs to get Vicky's attention because he saw Michael, which I love Julian so much. He's not there for a lot, but
me too.
But I like that kid a lot.
Too.
He is spunky, and he's got a lot of attitude in all the best ways, and he's hilarious.
He had such a great relationship with Vicky, too. Like, they were going back and forth. I've got a secret on you, and I have a secret on you. And it was just so cute.
Yeah.
And then she admitted that he was her favorite kid to babysit. And I felt like she was sacrificing herself to save him.
Oh, yeah, because she's telling him, run, whenever Michael has her. And that's really sad. And I really hated to see when Officer Hawkins finds her body, that the cute jack-o'-lantern that Dave had made for her with the heart eyes was sitting in the fish tank next to her, and it was all just, and then poor Dave.
Julian, I think, would rather, he kept saying to her, go get Dave, and I felt like he'd rather Dave go and look, because if something happens to Dave, he's okay. He doesn't want anything to happen to Vicky.
Mm-hmm. Of course, when Julian's running out of the house, he does look at Dave and says, don't go up there. You should run away, too.
Yeah. I know. It's like, what do you want, Julian? Do you want him to go rescue Vicky or run away with you? I mean, gotta make up your mind what you want to do there. But I really liked him, too. I thought he was so much fun.
Yeah, I like Dave. I like Dave and Julian a lot. But yeah, Dave even, because, I mean, he comes across as the typical, the stereotypical stoner character.
Mm-hmm.
But then with his interactions with Vicky for a little bit, you realize he might be the actual nicest guy in this movie. He actually does seem to have the best heart. He's actually a really sweet guy, very thoughtful.
Yes. He got the date tattooed on his arm because, Yeah,
it means something.
It means something. And unfortunately, I don't think they got to do what they were planning to do. But
he got nailed a different way, to the wall with a knife.
Oh, you went there.
Yeah, it was not pretty. I wish we could have seen more of Dave.
He seemed really cool. I liked him a lot.
He was a real one. So, R.I.P. Dave, you were real.
Yeah, you were real for sure.
But then later on, R.I.P. Oscar, you were not a real one.
Oscar.
I felt less bad about his death once it happened, because you realize that even though he's the funny, goofy guy of the group, he's also kind of a douchebag. He was a scumbag too.
Absolutely.
Making moves on Allison right after she had kind of broken up or had her fight with Cameron.
Yes.
And then he's just trying to play it off I just thought, and I just wanted you to be happy, and you're so nice, and you're so great and pretty, and you deserve better. And he's just trying to slime his way in there, and I'm like, oh, come on, shut up, Oscar.
Yeah, just go away.
Yeah.
Or not.
I don't know if that really I don't know if that warrants a death by knife in the back and gate spike through the jaw, but maybe that's a little overkill. But
painful.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
I like the effects of the sensor light, the motion sensor light going off and on, and Michael just kind of gets closer and closer as it's going off.
I know. Oh my gosh. Those little moments
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch this movie at night, you're thinking, oh boy. You just want to, like, grab a blanket and pull it up halfway to your... almost cover your eyes, and then so you can pull it up when you don't want to. Or at least cover your eyes with your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the next death, it takes a little while, but then the next death we get to is after Hawkins hits Michael with his truck.
Oh my goodness. This is when we learn something very important.
Yep, you see Sartain kind of turn on Hawkins, killing him, putting Michael in the truck, and making sure that he gets to Laurie. He has made himself an accomplice in this. And
you know, he was the one who said, Sartain said, he studied under Dr. Loomis, which is something we haven't mentioned before. And he didn't want Michael to be transferred to the pit of hell. He didn't want Michael to be harmed. He wants him to be studied. And it was strange when he kills Hawkins and he goes over to Michael. He's like, is this what it feels like? Like he was trying to connect with Michael over killing someone.
Yeah.
And
like there's this deep connection between them that he thinks is there. But then as we find out, Michael doesn't give two shits about him because he takes him out of, slams him into the horn of the steering wheel of the truck, pulls him out of the truck. And as he's sitting there trying to connect with him and tell him, just speak, tell me something.
Speak to something. He did speak.
Yeah.
Just not words.
I would just say, Sartain thought that they had a connection, but when he realized that he didn't, it truly blew his mind. Well,
with his foot.
Literally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. I see where you went there. Oh my gosh. Sartain thought that it was the pursuit of Laurie Strode that kept Michael alive all this time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just interesting. The whole Sartain thing, I didn't get an off vibe about him until, first when he insisted upon being on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
I started to think, why?
It's a little fishy.
And then, it just went downhill from there. And by the end, when he killed Hawkins, I'm just like, okay, you're just as nuts as Michael Myers.
Yeah.
To think that you're just, going to kill someone, and is that what it feels like? For heaven's sakes.
Right. You're
supposed to be a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sartain was definitely a bit strange of a character.
Yeah.
He was definitely, as I said earlier, he was no Dr. Loomis.
No, not at all.
Just saying.
But at least Sartain was stupid enough to also believe Allison's little ploy, which enabled him to stop the car and let her escape and run away and get back to the house eventually. So that was good. But
yeah, definitely.
But yeah.
I liked her right from the beginning.
Yeah.
I felt like she was a strong character. I liked her bond with Laurie. It's funny, she was dating Cameron Elam, who's actually the son of Lonnie Elam from the first movie.
Yeah.
He was like the stoner. I think he was like the stereotypical stoner. He's the one with all the weed. Yeah,
because Allison's dad, Ray, makes a lot of references to that whenever, when they're early in the movie, when it's like, oh, you're dating Cameron Elam. And she's like, oh yeah, I knew his dad back in the day. I knew Lonnie. And he's like that whole family. And he's just making all these jokes about like, oh yeah, he seems nice enough now until he gets you pregnant. And then you're sitting there just doing a bunch of drugs together, getting fat, and
I know.
He's not being super mean. He's joking and jabbing at her.
Yeah.
But it's still, because then even when they have their dinner, he's poking fun at Cameron, telling him like, oh yeah, me and your dad. Like, oh yeah, I knew your dad. He gave me peyote once. Oh, all the times that we just went out walking in the woods and got high. Just painting quite an interesting picture of Cameron's father.
Oh, yes, definitely. For sure. I believe Lonnie actually was in the first film too. Like it wasn't, they're not just alluding to it. Like he actually was in the first film.
Mm-hmm.
As I said earlier, Allison had a hard time understanding why her grandmother couldn't just get over Michael. But she still had this empathy that I thought was endearing, because Karen definitely did not have any empathy at all. She was over it completely.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, let's see. We get to now we're closer to the end of the movie again. We've gone to circle around again, but following Michael this time, where kind of some of his last kills are, of course, my favorite characters of this whole movie. And you'll find out why later on. I've got in my quotes and all this fun stuff. But just call them, the officers, Foodie Phillips and Fudge Brownie Francis.
I knew when you said my two favorite characters. Yeah. I knew exactly where you were going.
I'd watch an entire 2-hour movie just spin off of just these two guys. They're my favorite.
They were quite humorous.
Yeah. So it was kind of brutal, and I was kind of sad to see that their car rolls up, which Michael had used to get to the house. I guess at some point he got close enough to get out of the car and then set this up to push it into the yard as a distraction, so he could then kill Ray. Which
I think Ray let him in. I think Ray.
Yeah, because he left the door open when he walked out.
Yeah.
But yeah, R.I.P. Ray. He wasn't here for a long time, but he was here for a good time with all those dumb jokes throughout the movie.
Yeah. He was kind of bumbling at times and endearing in a different way. He's just kind of he was kind of a little bit of the comedy, not too much, but enough, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, he did when he left to go inspect the car. Because Michael still has to break through the door when he's fighting with Laurie.
Yes.
But there was a gate. There was a other mode or another thing of security there. There was that metal grate that was between the door that was not there. That was opened because Ray had left that open.
Yeah.
So
that is going to come up in my little extra special thing I'm going to bring up at the end of this.
Oh, yeah.
Some rules.
Yeah,
rules to follow.
But it was brutal to see my two favorite characters of the whole movie with Francis's jack-o'-lantern head in Philip's lap, and it was very.
The man-o'-lantern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
That was not pretty. That is the stuff of horror movies and nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. That was very sad.
But yeah. But I think that sums up about everything with Michael, because then we've crossed paths to the end of the movie again. We kind of covered that with the back and forth between him and Laurie. So unless you've got some more to cover on him.
Oh, I've got a few things.
All right.
I got a few things. Just because I'm just connecting things a little bit. Laurie hands out all the guns in the basement, and you see there's one on the rack that has KS for the initials. And she doesn't hand that out to Karen. Mm-hmm. But at some point when Karen's in the basement by herself, she looks at that gun, remembers that's her gun, and she takes it. And she actually tricks Michael by saying, "Mom, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it." And she's holding the gun, and Michael slowly comes over, and then she just straight-faced, "Gotcha." Boom.
Yeah, I loved that moment where Karen has finally taken that initiative and remembered the stuff that she's hated her mom for pounding into her mind this whole time, but it came into effect. It came into use here. And
definitely.
Yeah, it was great. I did notice something else in that scene. I didn't notice it until they were in the basement about Karen. Early in the movie, Dave makes a joke to Allison that he's surprised that everybody in Allison's family even
oh my god, I know where you're going,
celebrates Halloween and all this stuff. And he says something about because they're trauma in history, he's like, why doesn't your whole family just skip Halloween and move straight to Christmas? And when they're in the basement, Karen is wearing a Christmas sweater. It is October 31st, Halloween Day, and she's wearing a Christmas sweater in that basement.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. She's wearing a Christmas sweater. I noticed that on my rewatch also, and I'm just thinking, I didn't connect it until that she was in the basement, and then it's just oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Really? A Christmas sweater with little Christmas trees on it?
Mm-hmm. Little snowflakes on the arms.
I liked it though when they trap Michael in the basement, they lock those spiky things across, and Karen says to Allison, "It's not a cage, baby, it's a trap." She's completely shifted from this, I don't like my mom, I had a crappy childhood, it's been a terrible time too, now I'm a badass like my mom.
Yep.
It just was kind of interesting to see that arc, I guess.
Yeah.
There was one other thing, too, that I thought was, and actually involves Allison. When she was running, she got out of the police car and she's running away, and she actually wanders into Laurie's shooting range of headless mannequins, and it terrifies her.
Uh-huh.
I could not even. I'm looking at it thinking, this reminds me of a really old horror movie. I think it was from the late 70s, early 80s, called Tourist Trap, and it had a lot of mannequins in it. So it just reminded me of that when I was looking at that scene, and just seeing Allison in that pit, she's just looking around and seeing all these mannequins with no heads, and it's where Laurie spent all of her time getting ready for Michael to come. Yeah. She practiced to be ready for what we saw in this movie.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, we got anything more to speak on Michael Myers related, or should we dive into some other character stuff?
I feel like we could dive into some other character stuff.
All right. I've just got a few little notes about different characters and stuff at this point, because we covered a lot of the main ones. Again, with the podcasters, I liked them going to Laurie's house after stuff didn't really pan out with Michael. And they're trying to we're podcasters, investigative journalists. So we're not sure what's the best way to sell this. And she's like, journalists don't pay for their interviews. And then you can tell Aaron's not getting through to Laurie at all. And finally Dana's just like, how does $3,000 sound? And the gate opens. And I thought that was really funny. And as a podcaster, I don't know, maybe do I have enough experience to be able to judge their methods here? But I'm thinking I think you guys came on a little too strong. I don't know.
Absolutely.
What you were expecting. You don't get much accomplished with her when your first instinct is to jump straight to oh yeah, you had 2 divorces and you lost custody of your 12-year-old child. So how was that? What was that like? And
then they shift it and they're trying to talk to her well, if you talk to Michael, it might help you. Helping, helping us will help yourself. And that's when she's just kind of here's the door.
Yeah.
Where's my money?
You don't understand what's going on with us, but thanks for the payment. Get out.
Yes, exactly.
She gives that money directly to Allison, which was a sweet gesture, I think.
Yeah, I liked that. I know I've said it before, I like their dynamic a lot. And
another little note about Allison, that when she actually interacts with Michael Myers for the first time, when she finds Oscar's body and Michael jumps out of the shadows or walks out towards her, before Michael even showed up, I think she knew what was going on. She has enough of this knowledge of her grandmother and the stories and the family history that I think as soon as she saw Oscar, but after, it scared her for a little bit, because she didn't seem too shocked at first when Michael walked out. She did end up screaming and running away, but there was almost this look of knowing in her eyes at first, oh, that's happening again.
Yeah. So this is what grandmother was talking about. Yeah. This is Michael Myers. Yeah. This is the man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm trying to think if there's any other. I think there's only one other character note that I had, and it was a small one. It was just about Cameron, because we didn't see him a whole lot. I actually really liked him at first.
Me too. He seemed sweet.
I thought he was really funny. And he wasn't because they painted him to be the typical douchebag guy, and then he wasn't. And I was like, oh, cool. But then I was kind of upset that then they just twisted it to where he just got a little alcohol in him, and next thing you know, he's the typical kissing another girl at the party kind of guy and denying it and getting all defensive and angry towards. And I was like, why you gotta flip into total dick mode so quick?
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of liked you. I was rooting for you, dude.
Yeah. I liked that they did the gender bending Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah, it was a great costume idea.
That was so cool. Why do you have to be a jerk?
Mm-hmm.
And then throwing her phone into some what looked like pudding or
nacho cheese.
Yeah, it was not a good place for a phone.
And I found out it was nacho cheese for sure, thanks to one of the deleted scenes. But which we'll get into that. I'll have a deleted scenes segment. There's a tease for that. Since I have the DVD, I've got some deleted scenes fun that I have to watch and check out. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I was that was a total dick move. That's just, no. You have 0 points now. No credibility in my book.
Mm-hmm.
She needs to kick you to the curb. Son of Lonnie or not, even if Lonnie's a fun guy.
Yeah.
You are not.
Yep. All right. Anything else you've got character-wise?
No, I actually think that we've covered everything. I did have one other note about Karen. She mentions that she learned to shoot a gun when she was 8 and had nightmares about the basement and spent her whole life trying to get over the paranoia and neurosis that her mother projected on her.
Yeah.
And that made me have some empathy for her at first. But I still didn't I get she was over it.
Yeah.
You know, she went through this her whole life and she was over it because she didn't see what her mother went through and she didn't understand quite the extent of Michael's hold over her mother. Because I do think it was some sort of hold that he had on her.
Oh, definitely.
And now I think that she, by the end of the movie, she was really seeing that, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
She realized it when the police were at the door and they had to go.
Yeah.
I think she, it's when she started to realize that her mother had been telling the truth this whole time and that it was just as extreme as she had said it was.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know you have some production notes and stuff like that. I have a little bit of my own, but not too deep.
Ooh.
So not too deep. I let you go in with the deeper stuff, but a little bit of things that I have. Of course, the classic John Carpenter Halloween theme music, truly iconic in the horror world, 100%. So it was great to have that. This is not something you mess with. You don't try to remix it or play with it for the movies. You put it in where it belongs, how it belongs. That's good.
Definitely. Definitely.
Jamie Lee Curtis, I noticed, was an executive producer for this movie. So not only did she return to reprise the role, but she had a big hand in the making of the film itself too, which she fully deserves, and I love seeing that.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you hinted at it. You hinted at it a little bit earlier, but yeah, at the very end of the closing credits, you hear Michael's breathing. Of course, what would you expect? Of course, can't end here. But one of my main things I want to talk about was I noticed in the opening credits, they're showing the whole time during the opening credits, it's showing like a time lapse, but in reverse of like a rotten jack-o'-lantern coming back to normal. And I was thinking myself, and I didn't look this up online, but just my own guess, is it kind of signifies turning back the time to the original Halloween movie because this is like a direct sequel to that first movie. It's kind of erasing everything else that had happened.
I would agree with that.
And so I'll kind of go into, I had to look for, okay, what is this timeline exactly? So I will give credit to Reddit user dying_daylight on r/Halloween movies. He posted something that I was like, okay, I gotta go into this because he says which movie is canon in what timeline because there are multiple. So the films go like this canonically in order: Halloween 78, Halloween 2 81, Halloween 3 82, Halloween 4 88, Halloween 5 89, Halloween 6 95, Halloween H2O 98, Halloween Resurrection 02, Halloween 2007, Halloween 2 2009, and then Halloween 2018. Yes. Says, do note that Halloween H2O effectively ignores parts 4, 5, and 6 and instead serves as a sequel to Halloween 2. Halloween 07 is a remake of Halloween 78, while Halloween 2 serves as its own sequel to that remake. There's a lot to... Yes. Hopefully people don't get too lost in this.
There is a lot.
Halloween 3 has no relevance to the Myers storyline. Existing is more fiction in that film, so ignore that. That's what this Reddit user says.
Yeah.
In order to understand the continuity of 2018 Halloween, you only need to watch the original 1978 Halloween, as it will be a direct sequel to that, disregarding all the previous sequels. In other words, Halloween 2018 is your new Halloween 2. As established before, after Halloween 2, there's a timeline split, excluding Halloween 3. And so if you want to follow the exact timelines, if you're a nerd about that, then you have 4 distinct timelines in the Halloween universe. Timeline 1 is Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, 5, and 6. Timeline 2 is Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween H2O, and Halloween Resurrection. Timeline 3 is Rob Zombie's Halloween and Halloween 2, which is the 2007 and 2009 films. And then now Timeline 4 is Halloween 1978 and Halloween 2018.
We need a flow chart.
Yeah, it's like a whole...
For that.
Where's the graph?
Yeah, that's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah.
I'm not sure any other franchises really have gone that crazy with timelines.
Yeah.
This is pretty unique, I think. But yeah. Wow. I can't... I'm just trying to keep that straight in my head is giving me a headache.
Yeah.
That is for sure. Did you know that the movie was co-written by Danny McBride?
I had heard that before, but I had forgotten about it.
Yes. Mr. Eastbound and Down? Yes. Mr. Comedy? Yeah. He actually co-wrote it, and he's involved in the next two as well.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Cool.
Yeah. They also cast the actress that played Allison. She was relatively unknown, which was similar to Jamie Lee Curtis's casting for the original movie, which I thought was really cool. And different, or kind of keeping with the similar theme. Nick Castle, who played the Shape in this movie, he didn't play the Shape the entire time. He was one of two actors that played, quote, the Shape. He also had a role in the 1978 film as the Shape.
Yeah. Which, for those who don't know, for some reason, the Shape is kind of referring to the character of Michael Myers when he's out on his killing sprees. That's what he's known for, because it's different actors that wear the mask and do different things.
Yeah. This film actually, too, was released on what was determined as Michael Myers' birthday.
Oh, nice.
Which was October 19th. And there was one other thing I wanted to point out, which was the film was produced by Malik Akkad, who is the son of Mustafa Akkad. And Jamie Lee Curtis actually remembers him visiting the set of the movie in 1978 as a 7-year-old. And she was actually brought to tears when she saw him on set. It was the first time she saw him since his father had passed away. So that was kind of an emotional reunion.
That's nice.
It's cool to have that connection, though, that his father was so active in the series of movies, and to see or have him involved in continuing that legacy, I think is really fun. Not fun.
Yeah.
To have him continue the legacy, I think, is really incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
And those are all of my production notes.
Cool. Well, then I think before we get into quotes you had mentioned or teased earlier, so I don't want to let you forget, you said you have a little something about your unwritten rules of horror movies.
This is something new I'm starting. I am going to start them. These are really like the first 5 of my unwritten rules.
Yeah.
The first rule is never get out of the car. Our friend the hunter and his son, Kevin, I think we determined his name was. Poor Hunter. His neck was broken, and I haven't been that affected since the broke neck lady in The Haunting of Hill House. I'm just saying. So that's number 1. The hunter and son had an unfortunate demise.
Yeah.
Number 2, never take a shortcut, as our friend Oscar has shown us. You will not survive it, or are likely not to. Number 3, beware of closets. As Vicky found out, don't go near the closet. That's the end. Number 4 did not result in a death, but banging on doors, no one will ever be home to save you, although in the end, Allison did finally reach someone. Usually there's nobody home.
Yep.
And then number 5 is to my poor deceased friend Ray. Stay in the fucking safe house.
Exactly.
When you have a house that is set up like Fort Knox, stay in the house.
Don't go outside ever.
So those are the first 5 in what may, from time to time, when we cover a more horror type movie, be of an ongoing list of my little unwritten rules of horror movies.
All right. All right. Should we go ahead and get into some quotes? What are our favorite quotes?
Let's get into quotes.
All right. I'll let you run through it first.
All right. Well, my first one, after Laurie has allowed Dana and Aaron into her home, she says to Aaron, you don't believe in the boogeyman? And he responds with, I believe in Michael Myers, a deranged serial killer, but the boogeyman? No. And she follows it up with, well, you should. Mm-hmm. Which is true.
Yeah.
I liked that. And then when Allison and Dr. Sartan and Michael Myers are all in the cruiser, Dr. Sartan says, these people want to kill this man for the crimes you observed. The most important opportunity to understand the mind of evil, you see. So when he awakens, we'll be ready. And Allison says, ready for what? And Dr. Sartan responds with, a reunion. Michael's pursuit of Laurie Strode could be what keeps him alive. I would suspect the notion of being a predator or the fear of becoming prey keeps both of them alive. And I thought that represented the relationship between Michael and Laurie very, very well.
Yeah.
Because it kind of, predator versus prey. Who's the predator? Who's the prey? Because Laurie isn't acting like the prey. Not really. Mm-hmm. She's kind of trying to be the predator.
Yeah.
And then after Laurie has passed out the guns to Karen and Ray, she says, he's waited for this night. He's waited for me. I've waited for him. Mm-hmm. And I think that also represents things really well. Yeah. Because it's been a 40-year wait for both of them.
I've got quite a few. Mostly just the funny ones, because that's what I like to do. But I've got some other just like cool lines or stuff that I thought that stuck out to me. But first one that I have is Dave, when he's walking with Vicky and Allison at the beginning. He says, wasn't it her brother who like cold-blooded murderlated all these teenagers? And I thought that the word murderlated was... It's a made-up word, but it's quite fitting, I think.
It reminds me of that word that you came up with for the Twister podcast a few weeks ago. Yeah. Cargument. It's kind of like marrying those two words together. So I think, murderlating. That's a good one.
So, Dave, thanks for murderlated. That's a good one. Another one involved Dave, but it was from Julian. And it made me laugh so hard, is when Vicky's going upstairs to investigate after Julian comes downstairs saying he saw somebody. And he goes, send Dave first. And I cracked up so hard. I was like, of course you'd say that.
Of course. He loved Vicky. He didn't want anything to happen to her. That's what made me realize that he was not kidding. They were really... Yeah, Michael was there. I mean, we knew he was there, but we really knew he was there.
Mm-hmm. Next one's not funny, but, well, I guess it could be if you think about it that way. I don't know. But a little exchange between Laurie and Hawkins where she says, do you know that I pray every night that he would escape? And Hawkins says, ooh. What the hell do you do that for? She says, so I can kill him. And then it would have been very poignant leaving it there, but then Hawkins has to follow it up with, well, that was a dumb thing to pray for, and then walks off. Which, again, is kind of funny, but at the same time, like, also pretty serious, because he's just like, you don't know what this means for a lot of people. So,
yeah.
I thought that one was pretty good. And then this one was the unintentional funny quote of the movie for me, was Dr. Sartan. After they find Allison, they're picking up Allison, and he yells to all the people around. He says, I'm a doctor. Lock your doors. I don't know. Yeah.
What did he mean?
I know. I laughed so hard because I was like, wow, I don't think those two things work together at all. That's the police's job. I don't know what you being a doctor, how that's relevant at all. I'm a doctor, so listen to me and lock your doors because there's a killer on the loose. Well, but what? Oh, okay.
That makes me wonder sometimes, like, thinking, are we sure he's a doctor and he isn't just a patient that dressed up as one?
Right?
I mean, I know that he's a doctor and I know he's not a patient who dressed up as one, but it does make you question it.
Mm-hmm. I just thought it was such a badass line when Laurie steps out of the shadows to knock Michael down into the basement, and she just says, "Happy Halloween, Michael." And
oh yeah,
that was really cool. And then last one I've got is my favorite, and it's not really a quote as much as like an entire scene, an entire conversation that I had to write out word for word because my favorite...
It's what you do. It's what you do.
Yeah, my favorite characters of this whole movie. It's completely...
Oh, here we go.
It's completely irrelevant to this film, but completely hilarious, and I loved every second of it. It's between Foodie Phillips and what I am calling Fudge Brownie Francis. No, because I relate with Phillips as a foodie on a spiritual level, and him trying to culture Francis with this banh mi and explain the beauty of this sandwich bread. I was so on board with him. I was like, yes, teach him the ways. So
with peanut butter.
Yeah. So I had this whole conversation between Phillips and Francis, and instead of just saying he said, I'm just gonna assume that people can keep on track with who's saying what.
All right, go for it.
Phillips starts, but he says, "You want a banh mi sandwich? A what? What is that? A banh mi sandwich? What is that? I don't even know what that is." I love that about you, Francis. You're so predictable. You're like a PB&J everyday kind of guy. Oh, here we go. No, a banh mi sandwich. Banh mi is essentially just the Vietnamese version of a French baguette. Mm-hmm. And the term actually refers to the bread and not so much the contents therein. Mm-hmm. But your partner, the greatest partner in the world, wow, made an arrangement with the Vietnamese folks at the restaurant and had them make you your very own peanut butter and jelly banh mi sandwich. That sounds disgusting. I'm not going to try that. I brought my own food. I'm very happy with my... What did you bring? You want to see what I brought? Yeah, I do want to see what you brought. Ready? Look at this. Look at that. Oh, okay. Fresh brownie. Chocolatey homemade brownie. I made that myself. That's like what a 5-year-old would eat if they could make their own lunch. It's such a out of left field conversation that takes up way more time than necessary. And I loved every single second of it as much as I love a good banh mi sandwich.
Oh, my goodness. You know, the brownie thing resonates with me because I was babysitting today my 2 nieces.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some pizza, and they wanted to skip the pizza to have the brownies.
Just go straight to the brownies.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can totally relate. A 5-year-old definitely would pick brownies for lunch.
Yeah. All right. What's next? I've got some... If we want to go ahead and get into deleted scenes from the movie. We can
do that. Let's go for that.
All right. I'll break these down a little bit, which... Oh, man, we're about to get back into it. But but I'll run through these other ones kind of in the order that I saw them. First, there's an extended scene. Now, this one, trigger warning a little bit for some people. It's a little rough for, depending on what you're going with or what you've dealt with. But... It's here. So there's an extended scene of Lori on her shooting range, and she's practicing, and it's a little bit longer. And then she goes back inside, and she puts a gun to her head and is contemplating suicide and is about to kill herself.
Wow.
And before she can do that, she's interrupted by the gate buzzer going off when the podcasters have pulled up to the gate.
Oh, my goodness. So, wow.
There's that. Then there's a scene of Dana, one of the podcasters, taking a shower, and you can see the Michael Myers mask watching her through the shower curtain.
Oh, wow.
And for a bit, and then it kind of goes in and out of focus, and then finally the curtain gets ripped back, and it's Aaron wearing the mask and nothing else. And he takes it off. He takes it off and gets in the shower with her, and they're joking about his obsession with Michael. And he's like, you wouldn't kill me. And he's like, of course I would. I could never actually kill you. I like your smile. I need your smile. And it's this weird kind of jokey thing between the two of them where it kind of shows that he's a little too obsessed with Michael Myers and his background.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We get a quick scene of Allison. She's out on a jog through the neighborhood, and she comes upon a house where the police are outside and they're talking to a guy because his dog has been killed and is hanging from the tree in his yard. And that's a little brutal, so I can see why they would cut that, because a dog dying in a movie
is not okay.
Yeah.
We talked about that, we've talked about that, I think, before.
Yeah. But yeah, so that she's kind of watching in horror as the police are talking to this guy with the dog hanging there. And then we see a glimpse of Michael in the background, in the far background, in his white clothes watching from behind a car. So it was a little creepy.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a throwback too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then, he didn't have his mask on or anything at that time. So it was kind of an earlier, which I guess they would have cut that also because then it doesn't work with the timeline if he would have got his mask back before he got back to the neighborhood. So it was all... they're playing with stuff, figuring it out.
Yeah.
There's another scene. There's not really much to it, but Allison and her whole friend group are talking at school. Vicky says she has to babysit, so she can't go to the dance. Dave's joking about, well, we're going to have a better time anyway, and let's get matching tattoos to honor the occasion. And so that does come up a little earlier, which is cool. Oscar's just being Oscar, just making jokes inappropriately. And then,
as usual.
Yeah, and then Allison apologizes to Cameron for the awkward interactions at dinner the night before, but with her grandmother and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That was pretty awkward.
We get another one where a drunk Cameron, very drunk, catches up with Allison to apologize to her for his actions and behavior at the dance. That's where, he hands her phone back. He's like, just put it in rice and it'll be fine. She's like, it's sticky from all the nacho cheese. And they're just having this, And so at least she's hearing him out and they're talking for a little bit, but then these cops show up because Michael is on the loose. And so there is a curfew in effect. And so they're sending everybody home. But then Cameron because he's super drunk, he gets belligerent and mouthy with the cops. So then they arrest him and Oscar has to walk Allison home.
Oh, okay.
And that's how we get to the two of them together.
Oh, yes. And then we've already been down that road to talk about that.
Let's see. There's another deleted scene, which was just weird. It was quick. It was a super awkward conversation between Sartain and Hawkins, where they're talking about ladies' underwear and picking boogers. It's like this whole weird, where it just shows again that Sartain is like
weird,
really weird, and like there's something off about him. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Don't need to. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last one is an extended scene between my two favorite characters of the movie, and I'm about to go back into it again.
My goodness.
Here's what could have been. The conversation starts off the same all the way to get to the point where he says, that sounds disgusting. I'm not going to eat that. And then here's where the conversation changes and there's more. So he says, so Francis leads this one. He says, that sounds disgusting. I'm not going to eat that. It's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I know, but it's a bon mi thing. Bon mi. Pardon me? Bon mi. Pardon me? It's actually the perfect blend of comfort and culture. It's right up your alley. That does not sound good, and I'm not going to eat it. Dig in. You can have it. I brought my own food, and I'm very happy with my... Well, what did you bring? You want to see what I brought? Yeah, I want to see what you brought. Ready? Look at this. I can't. It's dark in here. Francis, what? Look at that. Oh, wow. You know what that is? Homemade brownies, chocolate pudding. You made those?
Ooh.
Yeah, I made that myself because I'm a baker. I like to bake. That's like what a 5-year-old would eat if they could make their own lunch. Chocolate pudding, baby. You're an incredible man, Francis. I'll bake you something tomorrow. Mine's better than yours. Delish. You know what goes great with a banh mi sandwich? What's that? An IPA. That does sound good. Well, all right. That's why I said it. That's good. They go together like peanut butter and jelly. Yeah, how about that?
I wish they'd left it in.
I know. I mean, like I said earlier, I would take a 2-hour-long movie as just a spin-off of those two guys. Their banter is hilarious.
Well, that actually sounds like more of a Danny McBride movie.
Yeah.
than Halloween.
That definitely had to be his input into that movie for sure.
Oh, had to be. Had to be. Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm sorry I missed those deleted scenes. There were a couple in there that were interesting.
Some of them are really interesting.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah. All right. Is it that time to get to our rankings?
Nope.
No.
I have a little info on the sequels. Just a little. Just a little info on the sequels that we should do before rankings.
Okay, cool.
All right, so I've got a little info on Halloween Kills, which is movie number 2 or 3 in this timeline, and Halloween Ends, which is movie number 4 in the timeline. And the cool thing about Halloween Kills is they've already finished filming. So I wish that they would move up the date, but they're not going to.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the cool things about this is Kyle Richards, who played Lindsay Wallace in the original movie. She is listed to reprise the role in Halloween Kills, which is movie number 3. And Tommy Doyle, who was also in the first movie. Lindsay and Tommy were the 2 kids that Laurie Strode was babysitting the night that she has her interaction with Michael.
Yeah.
And he's going to be played by Anthony Michael Hall.
Oh, nice.
Who's another 80s actor. Had a lot of cool roles in the 80s. And that just really brings 2 of the original kids back into the movie franchise. Although Tommy Doyle, in an alternate timeline, in The Curse of Michael Myers, Paul Rudd actually played the role of Tommy Doyle.
Nice.
In that movie. And some of the other characters that are going to return for this are Sheriff Lee Brackett, who was in the original movie, and his daughter actually was killed. And Lonnie Elam will be making a reappearance. And I know, Peg, you'll be excited about this. Julian is also on the cast list.
Yay!
For Halloween Kills.
Better give him some more great sassy lines. I need it. I need it.
And for Halloween Ends, there's just not...
That's going to be the sequel spinoff. Yeah, the last one is just the 2 cops with the Bon Me conversation somehow coming back to life, and Julian, and that's the whole movie, and I will watch it 20 times. No.
I don't know about that, but we'll see. Maybe. Maybe Danny McBride will take over the whole script and decide to go down in that direction.
There we go. I'll watch it. I don't know. Nobody else will, but I will.
So, Halloween Ends is due to be released on October 12th, 2022. And there really is nothing to be known other than the basic information, which is the saga of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode ends. And the only other thing we know is David Gordon Green is going to direct it. So that's it.
And then maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but looking at the release dates for these, there's a possibility. I'm not going to say I'm going to confirm or put ourselves down for anything, but we may have Halloween specials on this podcast for the next 2 years.
I am totally down if you are.
Yeah. All right, now it's time for the rankings, Pake.
It is time for the rankings, Pake.
All right,
and I know what's going to happen. You're going to make me go first.
Absolutely,
you always
I will.
Do.
You know it.
Okay, so this is kind of, well, this is the first classic horror. I mean, The Ritual still was in the realm of our creature feature.
Yeah.
So was A Quiet Place. So this is, to me, really the first horror film.
Yeah.
Strict horror film that we have covered. And so for this, I looked at nothing because there was nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
So I came up with, after really considering and looking at my prior rankings, I'm going to give this movie an 8.5.
Oh, nice. All right. Cool,
yeah,
cool.
I think that it warrants it. I think the score, the acting, the story, the nostalgia, the throwbacks, and now the deleted scenes that I haven't even seen. I have to give it an 8.5.
Cool. All right. Maybe I should have gone
So where did you land?
So maybe I should have gone a little higher. But not too far behind. But yeah, but it was the same way as I really didn't have anything else to compare it to out of the stuff that we've already covered. Because, I mean, even if it has a higher score than some movies that we've covered, I don't think that means necessarily makes it a better movie. But it's all, you have to look within the genre and what does it accomplish what it's setting itself to do. And since it's the first slasher movie we've covered on here, it's in a league of its own. So I landed at an 8. But
Ooh.
I think I could even bump that up to a 8.3.
Usually you're higher than me, so I think this might be the first instance that I go higher than you. Wow.
Yeah.
There's a first time for everything.
All right, now it's time to get into some feedback. Daphne, what do we got on the docket for feedback today?
Well, we have a message from our good friend Steve.
All right.
And let's go ahead and listen to what he has to say to us.
Hey, Pake and Daphne, this is Steve. This is for Halloween. Didn't actually watch the movie. Not a big horror guy. I kind of pick and choose my horror, and I just never really could get into that whole genre, and I never did see, I don't think I've ever even watched the original. So, but I couldn't let a week go by without sending in a voicemail and telling you guys how much I appreciate your friendship and your encouragement and everything that you do. So thank you very much. And can't wait to see what you do next week. All right. Talk to you later.
Well,
all right.
There's that.
Thanks for checking in, Steve. Oh,
thanks so much, Steve, for sending us your thoughts on horror in general, I guess, and for your comments. We appreciate them. Hopefully, you'll find what we do next week a little more enjoyable.
Oh, I think he will.
I have a feeling he will as well.
Well, that's it for feedback this week, but hey, that's okay. Hey, if anybody has thoughts about Halloween after listening to this, you can always still send it in, and we'll read it later on. That's totally fine. There is not really any cutoff for any of our movies. If you got something to say or want to address something that we said about the movie, just write us or send in a voicemail anyway, and we'll get to you.
Yeah, we're happy to hear what you have to say, and happy also to share it with everyone.
Well, that about wraps up everything, so we'll go ahead and get to, where else you can hear what's going on in the podcast universe. Of course, I'm still over on Strange Indeed. We are still doing The Haunting of Bly Manor on this spooky, spooky Halloween time. I think episode 5 will be the next one that we're recording this next week. So we get 4 out right now. And then Steve, with his wonderful friendship, checking in voicemail, which we really do appreciate. You can always hear him and Mark over on Panels to Pixels. They are still covering The Boys season 2 right now, which was a lot of fun. So go check that out. And then Mark does have his other podcast as well, Adrenaline Cinema. And the newest episode of that is Iron Eagle with our friend Alex. So that should be cool too.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it yet, but I want to hear what Mark and Alex have to say about it.
And since we teased it just a little bit a second ago, next week on Run for Your Lives, what do the people have to look forward to?
Ooh, it's so exciting. Next week, we will be covering a wonderful classic film called Jaws. And we are delighted to have our good friend and the co-host of Strange Indeed, Rima, on with us for that episode.
Yay.
And as you know, Steven Spielberg directed Jaws. It was released in 1975 and was incredibly influential on many of the creature feature films and action films that came after it.
It's a big one.
It is. It's a supersized episode.
Yes, it'll be a lot of fun.
Just warning you guys now. It's a lot of fun. So watch it. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Looking forward to hearing from you guys.
For sure. And you can do that. You can submit theories, feedback, thoughts for Jaws or Halloween or any other movie that we have covered in the past by going to our Facebook page, facebook.com/runforyourlivespodcast. You can email us, send us your voicemails also at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at RYFL Podcast and Instagram at Run For Your Lives Podcast. We are also on YouTube. I think you just search Run For Your Lives Podcast on YouTube, and we can link it on our Facebook page again. We have recently, but we can check on there. You'll find that link there. And then if you're enjoying the show, make sure to share the love. Tell your friends. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, pretty much every podcast network, or not network, but podcast app and product that is available. You can find us there. And you can go to that website, runforyourlivespodcast.com, and it'll have all the links to all of our social media, YouTube, podcast players, everything. So it'll be easy to find us and share it. And then if you go on Apple Podcasts, be sure to give us a review. And that's the best way to really get us on the charts up there and let people see what's going on with Run For Your Lives. So we really appreciate that.
We definitely do. And with that, we've reached the end of our show. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pate.
And if you have to run, you better run for your lives. Happy Halloween!
Bye-bye.